Oh, hello. Welcome back. I am just refreshing my spiced rum and coke, which are going down quite nicely today. I doubt we will do a 3-hour post show today, because maybe we'll just save that for Fridays. But it was fun. For those of you who missed it, you got to go check it out on YouTube. It was crazy what was going on. Crazy what's going on in this world. Fernando Uribe was talking about it a little earlier on the show. Fernando's a great friend of the show. You got to check him out. What's his new Real Talk via Eyes on NJ. You got to check it out. But this whole Black Lives Matter thing, okay? There's two things here. There's the words Black Lives Matter, okay? Those are words. That's like, yes, it's like a statement. Black Lives Matter. If you put it in lowercase as a sentence, of course Black Lives Matter. All lives matter, including black lives, and red lives, and white lives, and the Black Lives Matter as a sentence is something we all agree with. Yes. Black Lives Matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter, capital BLM, BLM. That's not a statement. That's not something that people can agree with. By their own admission, the women who started Black Lives Matter are Marxists. They follow the Karl Marx, one of the worst dictators of all time, okay? They follow Karl Marx's teachings. So when you hear Black Lives Matter and you go, yeah, I agree. Agree with the sentence. Don't agree with the organization because it's a front for a bunch of Marxists. And if you dig down, which I like to do sometimes, I dig in and I read and then I click the little hyperlink to go to the next story and all this other stuff. If you read into what these people from Black Lives Matter, the people who started it, okay, one of the things that they're bent on is the removal of the paternal person. They want the fathers, they want fatherless homes, okay, that's what they want, and they're committed to the breakdown of the nuclear family. They want people's lives to be run as a village. Yeah, just, there's no home base, there's no family unit. The destruction of the nuclear family unit is the key thing that these people behind the capital Black Lives Matter movement, destruction of the nuclear family. America was built on faith and family, okay? And food, if you ask me, but that's why our food cabinet is under attack right now. But anyway, let me not digress here and start talking about all the great foods that have been canceled from my closet during this crazy BLM movement. But I'm joined right now by a great friend of the show. Joe Connor is with me. And when you start talking about terrorist organizations, which I think Black Lives Matter is one, and even the president agrees, nobody knows more about this than Joe. His father, Frank Connor, was murdered by terrorists that descend from the Black Lives Matter movement. And Joe, as a New Yorker, I know about this story for a while, but fill everyone in on, how your father was taken from you and your family by, the people who are really behind this Black Lives Matter movement.
Sure. On January 24th, 1975, my dad was having lunch at Francis Tavern downtown, and a terrorist walked a bomb in, set the bomb behind the table where he and his colleagues were eating lunch. And the bomb detonated within a couple of minutes, murdered 4 innocent men, wounded about 60, and our lives were forever shattered by these Marxists, leftists, Puerto Rican group, the FALN, the Armed Forces for National Liberation, who claimed that they were looking to free the Puerto Rican people from the colonial United States, when in actuality they were looking to enslave the Puerto Rican people in another Marxist Cuban-like state.
Right. So what they really wanted to do, although they were making like they were like some kind of freedom fighters, what they wanted to do is they wanted to get the American protectors out of there so that they can create an aristocracy for themselves and then enslave Puerto Rican people.
Absolutely. They were Marxists. They left a communique outside of Francis Tavern as they did at all of their 120 bombings. And it called them, my dad, a reactionary corporate executive. And if you're familiar with the Marxist terms, reactionary is a term that they use for a capitalist, for someone who has a job. My dad was 33. He was a New York City kid, son of immigrants from Ireland and England, and worked his way up. Went to school at night. Started the job out of high school. He was anything but a reactionary corporate executive.
Right.
You know
I'm
what
just
I'm saying?
sorry to laugh, Joe, but
and
it's
even
like,
even if he was, it gave. They felt, and this group now feels that they have the right, by mob rule, to appoint themselves judge, jury, and executioner of whether it's my dad or the other people that those terrorists murdered, or whether it's tearing statues down or burning buildings or raiding someone's house. They feel they have that right. And one of the most ironic things is that my father was profiled. He was profiled because he was a Wall Street guy, and he was eating at Francis Tavern, where a lot of the Wall Street guys would eat. And back in the 1970s, it was mainly white guys.
right.
And so they profiled. They walked into a place where liberty was founded in the U.S., where George Washington bid farewell to his officers after the Revolution, where the Sons of Liberty met with Alexander Hamilton.
Right,
And
it's a historic place in Francis Tavern.
Yes,
It's right on
sure
right
is.
by Wall Street there.
Right by
Hey,
Wall Street, on
Joe,
Broad
let me
Street,
ask
yeah.
you this. Part of the original founding team for Barack Obama's presidential movement was this guy Bill Ayers and his sidekick, side piece, whatever you call it, Bernardine Dorn, right?
Sure, right. Yep.
And also, this guy Oscar Lopez was part of the FALN group that
Yes.
I think Barack Obama commuted his sentence or took away his
He did.
crime, right? He was never actually caught as the bomber of your dad, but Oscar Lopez was photographed at the scene and basically went to jail for not answering subpoenas. Is that right?
Well, Oscar Lopez was one of the leaders of the FALN, and they were a Chicago-based group initially. They were about 16 of them were arrested and sent to long prison terms in the early 1980s. No one was ever specifically convicted of the Francis attack, but they were all arrested in Chicago and put away for 55 to 70 years. At sentencing, they threatened to kill the judge. Judge McMillan carried 2 6-shooters under his robes. They at sentencing also said that they were George Washington because they were looking to free Puerto Rico, and the judge hesitated for a minute, and he said, "Well, yes, but if the British had caught Washington, they'd have hanged him, and that's what I would do to you."
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, these guys were no joke. They were Cuban trained. They left only a few fingerprints out of all their bombings. They were bad guys, and the judge was a bad guy. He was a tough guy too. So Lopez was a leader. He claims to never have been at Francis Tavern, which is BS, because we do have pictures of him outside Francis immediately after the bombing. And I uncovered only a few years ago from the Daily News expose on Francis on January 24th, 2018, I think it was. I started looking through the pictures, and I found him outside the building, and I've sent them to the JTTF and the NYPD, and no one's denying it's him. All I've heard is, well, we couldn't prosecute him on this.
Right, and then right here in New York, Bill De Blasio was fine with Oscar Lopez being the mascot for the Puerto Rican Day Parade. That's how crazy this stuff is getting, right?
Yeah. When in 1999, Bill Clinton and with Eric Holder's assistance offered executive clemency, and we're talking clemency now.
Right.
Ironic considering the Roger Stone situation, but
right.
He offered executive clemency to these terrorists. All but Lopez accepted the clemency. Lopez stayed in prison. We didn't really know why at the time. He didn't say. But we went to his parole hearing in Terre Haute federal prison in 2011 and kept him in. It was my brother and me and some other family members and victims. And then in 2017, he asked for another clemency. He asked for another. Well, he asked for clemency, and he was released by Obama in his last day in office.
Wow. All right.
And none of the other terrorists had even asked for clemency.
Right.
It was handed to them. Incredible.
Crazy stuff, and a lot of these people are actually still behind you. Susan Rosenberg, a big fundraiser, and these are all people who are supporting Joe Biden. Joe, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
Check out Joe's column. He's a columnist for Townhall. He's a great American and a great friend of the show. Thank you.
WeWinAmerica.com and ShatteredLivesMovie.com, a couple of websites you might want to look at.
Go check out ShatteredLivesMovie.com. It's the real story behind how Joe's dad was murdered by these people. Quick break, more Liquid Lunch right after this.